The great chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension as representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered for what would become known as the most controversial decision in galactic history. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood alone at the defendant's podium, her hands steady despite the weight of humanity's fate resting on her shoulders. Above her, the massive holographic display showed Earth burning, not from war or natural disaster, but from the cleansing fires of industrial progress that had transformed the blue world into something the galaxy had never seen before. Massive cities stretched across continents, their lights visible from space. Orbital platforms circled the planet like a metal web, processing materials at rates that defied galactic norms. "The evidence is clear," declared Chancellor Vexthar, his 6 arms gesturing dramatically at the display. The Altherian's skin shifted from blue to angry purple as he spoke. "Humanity has violated the sacred accords of development. They have industrialized their world beyond acceptable parameters. They have bred beyond sustainable numbers. They have consumed resources at rates that threaten galactic stability." Sarah's jaw tightened. The sacred accords were ancient laws that limited how fast species could develop, supposedly to prevent ecological collapse and maintain galactic peace. But Sarah knew the truth: they were chains designed to keep younger species weak while the old empires maintained their dominance. "Your Honor," Sarah began, but Vexthar cut her off with a sharp gesture. "Silence. You speak for a species that has existed in galactic society for merely 150 Earth years. The Accords have maintained peace for 10,000 years. Your kind threatens that peace with your reckless expansion and aggressive nature." Around the chamber, alien heads nodded in agreement. The Korathi delegation, their crystalline forms chiming softly, transmitted their support through harmonic frequencies. The gas-dwelling Nephilim pulsed their approval from their environmental suits. Even the usually neutral Zephyrians seemed convinced. Sarah looked up at them, all representatives of species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, comfortable in their technological stagnation and careful resource management. They had reached the stars through patience and restraint, taking thousands of years to develop what humanity had achieved in decades. "If I may," Sarah said, her voice carrying across the vast chamber, "humanity requests the right to present evidence in our defense." A low murmur rippled through the assembly. It was traditional to allow a defense, though few expected it to matter. "Proceed," Vexthar said with obvious reluctance. Sarah activated her own holographic display. Images of human colonies flashed before the assembly. Mars with its growing cities, the asteroid mining operations, the lunar industrial complexes. But these weren't images of destruction. They showed careful environmental management, closed-loop ecosystems, and sustainable growth. "Honorable Council," Sarah said, "humanity has indeed grown rapidly. But we have not grown recklessly. Every colony is self-sustaining. Every industrial process is designed for efficiency and minimal waste. We have spread across our system not to consume, but to preserve our homeworld while still advancing our civilization." She gestured to the next set of images, comparison charts showing resource usage per capita among different species. "Humanity uses fewer resources per individual than any species in this chamber. Our rapid development comes from innovation, not consumption." The Korathi representative's crystals dimmed with skepticism. "Innovation built on war and conflict. Your species has a documented history of violence that spans your entire existence. You bring chaos wherever you spread." Sarah felt a familiar anger rise in her chest. This was the real reason for the trial, not resources or development rates, but fear. Fear of what humanity might become. "Yes," she said simply, "we have known war, we have known conflict, but we have also known how to overcome these things. The very challenges you cite as our weakness have made us strong. We learned to cooperate because cooperation meant survival. We learned to innovate because innovation meant victory. We learned to adapt because those who couldn't adapt died." The chamber fell silent. In galactic society, such direct talk of conflict and death was considered crude, almost barbaric. Vexthar's skin darkened further. "You prove our point perfectly. Your mindset is incompatible with civilized society. You think in terms of victory and defeat. of survival and death. The galaxy has moved beyond such primitive concepts. Have you? Sarah asked quietly. Or have you simply had the luxury of peace for so long that you've forgotten the price of complacency? Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Emergency lights bathed the assembly in red as an aide rushed to Vexthar's side. What is the meaning of this interruption? The Chancellor demanded. The aide's voice was barely audible over the alarms. Sir, we're receiving reports from the Outer Rim. The Devourer has returned. A chill seemed to fall over the entire chamber. The Devourer, a name whispered in the darkest corners of galactic history, an ancient enemy that had once consumed entire systems before vanishing into the dark spaces between galaxies. It had been gone for over 1,000 years, long enough that many had begun to consider it merely a legend. Impossible, breathed the Nephilim delegate, its gaseous form shimmering with agitation. The Devourer was defeated, driven away permanently. Not defeated, Sarah said, her voice cutting through the chaos. You drove it away with superior numbers and technology. But you never actually defeated it. And now it's back. Vexthar turned on her with fury. How could you possibly know? He stopped, understanding dawning in his multifaceted eyes. Your species has been monitoring our historical records. Preparing, Sarah nodded slowly. When we joined the galactic community, we studied everything we could find about threats you had faced. The Devourer was the greatest of them. We noticed the patterns it returns every 1,000 to 1,500 years, always stronger than before. Your last encounter was 1,047 years ago. The chamber erupted in angry voices, accusations of spying and theft of classified information. But Sarah continued speaking, her voice somehow carrying over the chaos. We tried to warn you. 17 times in the past 50 years, humanity has submitted reports about preparations we believed should be made. Each time, we were told that we didn't understand galactic defense strategies, that we were being paranoid and aggressive. More aides were rushing into the chamber now, delivering reports to various delegations. The news was spreading, the Outer Rim was under attack. The Devourer had evolved, grown stronger during its exile in dark space. Vexthar called for order, his voice strained. This does not change the matter before us. Humanity has still violated the sacred accords, still proven themselves unfit for civilized society. Unfit? Sarah laughed, and the sound was harsh in the formal chamber. You want to banish the one species that actually prepared for this threat, because we make you uncomfortable? The vote came anyway. It was close, closer than anyone had expected, but the old powers held sway. By a margin of 300 votes, humanity was banished from galactic society. All human worlds outside the Sol system were to be evacuated. All human trade agreements were dissolved. All human research sharing was terminated. As the gavel fell, condemning her species to isolation, Sarah felt something she hadn't expected: relief. They were free now, free from the careful restrictions and cautious progress that had kept galactic civilization stagnant for millennia. So be it, Sarah said, as security moved to escort her from the chamber. Humanity will respect the Council's decision. We will withdraw to our system and trouble you no more. She paused at the chamber's exit and turned back one final time. I hope, for all our sakes, that when the Devourer reaches the core worlds, you remember how to fight. Because in 3 years, when your careful defenses fail and your measured responses prove inadequate, we won't be there to help you. The massive doors sealed behind her with a finality that echoed through the chamber. Humanity was alone now, cast out from galactic society just as the greatest threat in recorded history returned to consume everything they had built. But as Sarah walked through the corridors of the galactic capital for the last time, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. Humanity had been shaped by conflict and challenge. They had been forged in the fires of adversity. Now, free from the restraints of galactic law and the deadweight of galactic politics, they would have the chance to become what they were truly meant to be. The galaxy had made a choice, and in 3 years, they would learn whether they had chosen wisely. Behind her, in the chamber, Reports continued to flow in. The outer rim was falling faster than anyone had thought possible. The Devourer had learned from its past defeat, adapted, and evolved. The careful defensive strategies developed over centuries were proving useless against an enemy that refused to follow galactic conventions of warfare. Sarah smiled grimly as she stepped onto the transport that would take her back to human space. The galaxy wanted them gone? So be it. They would leave, but when they returned, and they would return, it would be on their own terms. The age of human restraint was over. The age of human ascendancy was about to begin. Admiral Marcus Rivera stood on the observation deck of the orbital shipyard, watching as the newest addition to humanity's fleet took shape. The massive vessel stretched nearly 3 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull gleaming with experimental metamaterials that could adapt their properties in real time. It was beautiful, deadly, and completely impossible according to galactic science. "Construction ahead of schedule, Admiral," reported Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka, her hands dancing over a holographic interface. "The new fabrication techniques are exceeding all projections. We'll have her space-worthy 6 months early." Marcus nodded, but his attention was fixed on the ship itself. 3 years had passed since humanity's banishment from galactic society. 3 years of isolation, of being cut off from galactic trade, technology, and resources. The other species had expected humanity to collapse, to come crawling back within a year, begging for readmission. Instead, humanity had thrived. "What's the final count on the fleet?" Marcus asked. 837 major vessels completed, with another 400 in various stages of construction," Tanaka replied. "Plus 15,000 support craft, mining ships, research vessels, and colony transports. Production is accelerating as we bring more automated facilities online." Marcus smiled grimly. 800 warships in 3 years, each one more advanced than anything in the galactic arsenal. The Council had unwittingly done humanity the greatest favor in its history by freeing them from the sacred accords. "Any word from the deep space monitoring stations?" he asked. Tanaka's expression grew serious. "The Devourer has consumed 47 star systems in the past 18 months. The galactic response has been inadequate. They're following traditional defensive strategies, falling back to prepared positions, trying to minimize losses. And it's not working," Marcus said. It wasn't a question, not even close. "Intelligence reports suggest the Council has lost over 60% of its military assets. They're retreating toward the core worlds, abandoning entire sectors to buy time." Marcus turned away from the shipyard to face the woman who had become humanity's foremost expert on galactic military doctrine. "Your assessment, Chief?" "Complete strategic failure," Tanaka said without hesitation. "They're fighting the last war, using tactics designed for an enemy that follows galactic conventions. The Devourer has evolved beyond their understanding. It's not just consuming resources anymore, it's adapting to their defenses in real time, incorporating captured technology, learning from each engagement." Through the massive viewport, Marcus could see other signs of humanity's transformation. The asteroid belt that had once been a modest mining operation was now a vast industrial complex, with automated factories processing raw materials at rates that would have horrified the galactic efficiency inspectors. Entire asteroids had been hollowed out and converted into mobile shipyards, research stations, and habitats. Beyond that, the outer planets had been transformed as well. Europa's subsurface oceans now housed massive aquaculture facilities and underwater cities. Titan's methane atmosphere had been tapped to fuel new forms of plasma drives that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Even Venus, once considered uninhabitable, now supported floating cities in its upper atmosphere, protected by energy shields that deflected the planet's crushing heat and acidic atmosphere. "How many colonies do we have now?" Marcus asked. 47 confirmed settled worlds across 16 different star systems," Tanaka replied. "Plus another 30 systems under survey and preparation. We've established a network of hidden bases, research facilities, and supply depots that extends nearly 200 light-years from Sol." Marcus nodded approvingly. While the galaxy had been focused on their war with the Devourer, humanity had been quietly expanding. exploring regions of space that the major powers had deemed economically unviable or strategically irrelevant. What they had found there had changed everything. "Show me the Prometheus data," Marcus said. Tanaka activated a new set of displays, showing technical specifications that would have been considered fantasy just 4 years ago. Faster than light communication. Instantaneous across any distance. 0-point energy extraction, giving us effectively unlimited power. Matter conversion at the quantum level, allowing us to transform any element into any other element. And most importantly, she paused, calling up the final display. It showed a device no larger than a human fist. Its surface covered in intricate crystalline patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Consciousness transfer and backup technology. "We've solved the problem of mortality itself." Marcus stared at the device, one of humanity's most closely guarded secrets. It had taken the combined efforts of their greatest scientists, working without the restrictive oversight of galactic academic institutions, to achieve what had been thought impossible. "How many volunteers have undergone the process?" he asked. "All of them," Tanaka said simply. "Every human in our colonies, every member of our military, every researcher and engineer. Death is now temporary for humanity. We can transfer consciousness between bodies, back up memories and personalities, even run multiple instances of the same person if needed." The implications were staggering. An immortal workforce that could take risks no mortal being would dare. Soldiers who could throw themselves into impossible situations without fear of permanent death. Scientists who could pursue dangerous research without worry about catastrophic failure. "What about the other projects?" Marcus asked. Tanaka's smile was predatory. "Dimensional manipulation is progressing ahead of schedule. We've successfully created stable pocket dimensions for storage and manufacturing. The time dilation research has produced chambers where we can experience years of development in days of real time. And the quantum entanglement networks allow us to coordinate across our entire empire instantaneously." Marcus walked to another section of the observation deck, where the view showed not space but a massive planet that hadn't existed 5 years ago. Humanity had learned to build worlds from scratch, starting with captured asteroids and comets, and using advanced matter manipulation to create entire ecosystems in months rather than millennia. "Population count?" he asked. "Difficult to calculate precisely due to the consciousness backup system, but approximately 8 billion souls across all our territories. Physical bodies number around 12 billion, with the difference made up by duplicated personalities running multiple instances. 8 billion humans had become 12 billion in just 3 years, spread across dozens of star systems, with technology that made them individually more capable than entire galactic civilizations. They had broken every rule, shattered every limitation, and transcended every boundary that the galaxy had tried to impose. "Sir," came a voice from behind them. Marcus turned to see Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, the former ambassador's daughter, who had joined the military after her mother's death in a research accident. The consciousness backup technology meant that death was temporary, but the loss was still felt deeply. "What is it, Commander?" Marcus asked. "We're receiving a transmission from galactic space." It's a distress call." From the Council itself. Marcus felt a cold satisfaction settle in his chest. On screen, the holographic display shifted to show a haggard-looking Chancellor Vexthar, his previously immaculate appearance now showing signs of stress and exhaustion. Behind him, Marcus could see the emergency lights of what appeared to be a bunker or emergency facility. To any who might receive this transmission," Vexthar began, his voice lacking its former authority. "The Galactic Council formally requests assistance in dealing with the Devourer crisis. We acknowledge that our previous defensive strategies have proven insufficient. The enemy has adapted beyond our ability to counter." The alien leader paused, visibly struggling with what he had to say next. "We hereby extend an invitation to any species or organization capable of providing military assistance. All previous sanctions and restrictions are suspended for the duration of the crisis. We are prepared to offer technology sharing, resource allocation, and territorial concessions in exchange for aid." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the observation deck in silence. "They didn't mention us specifically," Sarah observed. "They can't," Marcus replied. "Pride won't let them admit they need the species they banished. But the message is clear. They're desperate." Tanaka pulled up a strategic display showing the current state of galactic space. Red zones marked areas consumed by the Devourer, while yellow zones showed contested systems. The green areas representing safe galactic territory had shrunk to less than 30% of their original size. At current rates of advance, the Devourer will reach the core worlds in 8 months, she reported. The Council's remaining forces might hold them off for another 2 months after that, at best. Marcus studied the display, seeing not just the immediate tactical situation but the larger strategic picture. The galaxy was burning, and the old powers that had ruled for millennia were finally facing an enemy they couldn't defeat with patience and careful planning. "Begin Phase 3, he ordered. Sarah looked at him with surprise. "Sir?" "The timeline calls for at least another year of preparation. The timeline assumed we'd have longer to build our forces," Marcus replied. "But if we wait too long, there won't be a galaxy left to liberate. How long to mobilize the full fleet?" Tanaka was already running calculations. 6 weeks for complete mobilization. We can have advance forces moving within 10 days. "Do it," Marcus commanded. "And send a message to all colony commanders. It's time to come home." "Do it." As the orders went out across humanity's hidden empire, Marcus felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders. For 3 years, they had built and planned and prepared for this moment. They had transcended every limitation, overcome every obstacle, and become something the galaxy had never seen before. Now it was time to show the universe what humanity could accomplish when freed from the chains of galactic convention. The Devourer thought it was the ultimate predator, evolved beyond mortal limitations. It was about to learn that it had never encountered anything like humanity unleashed. The age of galactic dominance was ending. The age of human empire was about to begin. The bridge of the flagship Prometheus Times hummed with quiet efficiency as Admiral Marcus Rivera watched the final preparations for humanity's return to galactic space. Around him, officers moved with practiced precision, their enhanced minds processing information at rates that would have seemed impossible just 4 years ago. "Jump coordinates locked in," reported Navigation Officer Chen, her consciousness currently running in 3 parallel instances to handle the complex calculations required for their new faster-than-light technology. "Fleet ready for transition on your command." Marcus looked at the tactical display showing their assembled forces. 1,000 ships of various classes, each one incorporating technology that pushed the boundaries of known physics. But more importantly, each ship was crewed by humans who had transcended the limitations of mortality itself. "Open a channel to the galactic emergency frequency," Marcus ordered. "Channel open, sir." Marcus took a moment to compose his thoughts. The last communication humanity had received from galactic space had been increasingly desperate pleas for assistance, as the Devourer consumed system after system. The once mighty Galactic Council had been reduced to a handful of core worlds, their fleets shattered, their colonies abandoned. "This is Admiral Marcus Rivera of the Human Expeditionary Fleet," he began, his voice carrying across the quantum communication network that connected what remained of galactic civilization. "We have received your distress calls. Humanity is prepared to offer assistance in dealing with the Devourer threat." He paused, letting the weight of those words sink in. After 3 years of silence, the species they had banished was offering salvation. "We will arrive at the Xerion system in approximately 6 hours. Please prepare your remaining forces for joint operations, and council members." Marcus smiled coldly. "Prepare yourselves for some surprises." The transmission ended, and Marcus turned to his tactical officer. "Commander Torres, give me a real-time update on the Devourer's position." The main display shifted to show a 3-dimensional map of local space. Red markers indicated Devourer forces' massive biomechanical constructs that had been consuming entire star systems, growing stronger with each victory. The latest intelligence showed a concentration of enemy forces moving toward the Xerion system, where the Council had established their final defensive line. Devourer main force consists of approximately 50,000 individual units, ranging from destroyer-class scouts to dreadnought-class harvesters, Torres reported. They're currently 12 hours out from Zirion. Council forces in-system total, maybe 300 operational ships. Torres reported. 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 Marcus nodded grimly. By any conventional calculation, it would be a massacre. The Council's remaining forces would be overwhelmed within hours, and the core worlds would be defenseless. Time to jump, he ordered. Aye, sir. All ships, prepare for quantum fold transition. The universe twisted around them as humanity's new, faster-than-light drive activated. Unlike the gradual acceleration of traditional galactic travel, quantum folding allowed instantaneous movement across vast distances by manipulating the fundamental structure of space itself. When reality stabilized, they emerged into a star system in chaos. The Zirion system had once been a major trading hub, home to billions of beings from dozens of species. Now it looked like a battlefield. Orbital installations burned in the vacuum, their hulks drifting between defensive platforms that fired desperately at approaching enemies. The massive space stations that had once facilitated galactic commerce were either destroyed or converted into improvised fortress ships. Incoming transmission from Council Command, reported Communications Officer Park. Put it through. The face that appeared on screen was gaunt and exhausted. General Keth Maul of the Zephyrian Defense Forces had been leading the Council's final stand for months, and the strain showed in every line of his reptilian features. Human fleet. This is Defense Command Zirion, he began, his voice tight with barely controlled desperation. We weren't certain you would actually come. We keep our promises, General. Marcus replied. What's your tactical situation? What? Grim beyond description, Kethmol admitted. The Devourer main force will arrive in approximately 11 hours. We have 273 operational warships, most damaged, and our defensive installations are at 30% effectiveness. Our projections indicate we can hold for perhaps 3 hours before. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. General, I'm going to need you to pull your forces back to the inner system, Marcus said. Clear the outer approaches entirely. Kethmol's expression showed confusion and a hint of outrage. Admiral, with respect, we cannot simply abandon our defensive positions. Those installations represent our last hope of— General, Marcus interrupted gently. Those installations are about to become debris. Trust me on this. Before Kethmol could respond, the tactical display lit up with new contacts. The Devourer, advanced scouts had arrived. The enemy ships were nightmarish things, biomechanical hybrids that pulsed with organic fluids while bristling with weapons that had been torn from destroyed civilizations. They moved with predatory intelligence, adapting their formation as they assessed the human fleet. Interesting, murmured Science Officer Kim, her enhanced senses analyzing the enemy formation. They're showing confusion patterns. Their typical reconnaissance protocols aren't accounting for our ship configurations. Marcus wasn't surprised. Humanity's vessels were unlike anything in the galactic database, sleek, adaptive, and incorporating technologies that had never been seen before. All ships, engage at will, Marcus ordered. Let's show them what they're dealing with. The first exchange was over in seconds. Human ships moved with impossible agility, their hulls shifting and adapting in real time as enemy fire struck them. Weapons that should have crippled them were absorbed or deflected. Meanwhile, humanity's return fire was devastatingly precise beams of coherent energy that could adjust their frequency in mid-flight to overcome any defense. Within minutes, the advanced scouts were destroyed. Not driven back, not damaged, completely annihilated. Sir, called Sensor Officer Williams, the main Devourer force just accelerated. They're moving to full attack speed. Expected, Marcus replied calmly. They've realized they're facing something new. How long until they arrive? 4 hours, 30 minutes. Marcus activated the fleet communication network. All ships. Implement Prometheus protocol. Begin dimensional anchor deployment. Across the human fleet, ships began releasing strange devices that seemed to fold space around themselves. To outside observers, it looked like reality itself was being twisted into knots. "Admiral," came Kethmol's voice over the communication link. "What are those devices?" "Our sensors can't get coherent readings." "Dimensional anchors," Marcus explained casually. "They create stable pocket dimensions that we can use for tactical advantages. Storage, manufacturing, time dilation chambers, that sort of thing." The silence that followed was profound. Dimensional manipulation was theoretical science, discussed by the galaxy's most advanced physicists, but never successfully implemented. "You've mastered dimensional technology?" Kethmol's voice was barely above a whisper. "Among other things," Marcus replied. "General, you might want to move your forces back another few million kilometers." This could get intense. Over the next few hours, humanity transformed the Xerian system into something that defied conventional understanding. The dimensional anchors created networks of folded space that allowed ships to appear and disappear at will. Manufacturing stations emerged from pocket dimensions, immediately beginning construction of additional vessels and weapons. Time-dilated chambers allowed rapid planning and strategic analysis. When the Devourer main force finally arrived, they found a completely different battlefield than the one they had expected. "Devourer ships entering the outer system," reported Torres. 50,000 plus contacts. Just as intelligence predicted, Marcus studied the enemy formation. The Devourer had learned from countless battles, adapting strategies that had proven successful against galactic forces. They spread out to prevent concentrated fire, used captured technology to enhance their defenses, and employed swarm tactics that had overwhelmed every defense they had encountered. "Open a channel to the Devourer command structure," Marcus ordered. "Sir?" "Communications." Officer Park looked confused. "The Devourer doesn't respond to communications. They've never—" "They will today," Marcus said confidently. "Trust me." The channel opened, and Marcus found himself looking at something that shouldn't have been possible. The Devourer's central intelligence was a hybrid consciousness, part organic, part mechanical, and part something else entirely. It spoke in harmonics that translated poorly into galactic standard. "Unknown fleet configuration," it said, its voice a mixture of biological and electronic sounds. "Analyze, adapt, consume. I am Admiral Marcus Rivera of the Human Federation," Marcus replied calmly. "You are trespassing in territory under our protection. Withdraw immediately." The Devourer intelligence paused, processing this unexpected development. "Humans. Species designation, banished. Irrelevant to galactic hierarchy. Withdraw or be consumed." Marcus smiled, and there was something terrible in that expression. "We tried withdrawing. Didn't work out the way you expected, did it?" The attack came without further warning. 50,000 Devourer ships launched themselves at the human fleet with coordinated precision, their weapons firing in patterns designed to overwhelm any defense. What happened next redefined warfare in the galaxy. Human ships didn't just dodge the incoming fire, they moved through dimensions that shouldn't have existed, appearing behind enemy formations, striking from angles that violated three-dimensional space. Their weapons didn't just destroy targets, they unmade them, reducing complex biomechanical constructs to their component atoms in seconds. But the most shocking development was when human casualties began mounting. Ships that were destroyed didn't stay destroyed. They reconstituted themselves from quantum-level backups, their crews restored from consciousness templates, returning to battle within minutes. "Impossible," whispered General Kethmol, watching from his command ship as human vessels literally resurrected themselves. "Death isn't. This isn't how war works." The battle that should have lasted hours was over in 40 minutes. When the last Devourer ship fell silent, 50,000 enemy vessels had been reduced to drifting debris. The human fleet had lost approximately 30 ships, all of which had already been restored to full operational status. In the aftermath, as cleanup operations began, Marcus opened a general communication channel to address both the surviving Council forces and any Devourer remnants that might be listening. To the Galactic Council. Humanity's offer of assistance extends beyond this single battle. We are prepared to help rebuild what has been lost and protect what remains. But we will do so as equals, not as subjects. He paused, ensuring his next words were clearly transmitted across all frequencies. To the devourer intelligence. You have consumed countless worlds and destroyed civilizations that took millennia to build. Today you learned that some prey fights back. Continue your aggressive expansion, and you will discover exactly what humanity does to existential threats. The silence that followed was broken only by the background hum of dimensional anchors folding space and the quiet chatter of quantum communication networks. Chancellor Vexthar's voice finally broke through the communication system, weak but filled with awe. Admiral Rivera. Humanity offers to negotiate new terms for galactic membership? Marcus looked out at the stars, seeing not the empty void that had once contained a galactic civilization, but the foundation for something greater, something that wouldn't be bound by ancient restrictions or limited by fear of change. No, Chancellor, he said quietly. Humanity offers to lead. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of human empire had begun, and across the galaxy, on worlds that had spent millennia following the same careful patterns of controlled development, young beings looked up at the stars and dared to dream of what they might become if they were no longer afraid to reach for the impossible. The universe had just learned that humans didn't just adapt to the galaxy, they transformed it.